Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at a spell that saw a lot of use at my table early in my D&D, but I haven't seen it used much at all, except of course by evil bad guys. I'll explain it as we go. That spell is Animate Dead. Animate Dead. Interesting spell that no big bad evil guy would be without, but players don't use much at my table. And so I'm going to go through the particulars of the spell and then I'll explain. Animate Dead, of course, necromantic. It's a level 3 spell. Range is 10 feet. Duration is permanent. Area of effect is special. Verbal, somatic, and material components required. 1 round casting time and no save. This spell creates the lowest of the undead monsters, skeletons or zombies, from the bones of or bodies of dead humans. The effect is to cause these remains to become animated and obey the commands of the cleric casting the spell. The skeletons or zombies will follow commands of the cleric casting the spell. The skeletons or zombies will remain in the area and attack any creature or just specific type of creatures entering the place, etc. The spell will animate the monsters until they are destroyed or until the magic is dispelled. The cleric is able to animate 1 skeleton or 1 zombie for each level of experience he or she has attained. Thus, a 2nd level cleric can animate 2 of these monsters, a 3rd level 3. The act of animating dead is not basically a good one, and it must be used with careful consideration and good reason by clerics of good alignment. The spell requires a drop of blood, a piece of human flesh, and a pinch of bone or powder, or a bone shard to complete the spell. So basically, you're bringing a corpse to life either as a skeleton or a zombie. And that brings a couple of questions. First off, it talks about a 1st level cleric or being able to animate 1, 2nd level 2. This is a 3rd level spell, which means the earliest you can use it is 5th level. So automatically you'd get at least 5 skeletons or zombies. But one of the material components that it kind of doesn't talk about, but you do need, is the body. You can't just use these various spell components and create a body to animate. You have to have one handy. So do you do this after a fight and there's a bunch of dead goblins, for instance? Can you animate goblins? The spell doesn't really say. Undead goblins, yeah, I'd be fine with it. Orcs, I'd be fine with that too. Anything up to 1 to 2 hit dice. So an undead lizard man, a zombie lizard man, yeah, I'd allow it. Now, is it a skeleton or a zombie? This is a question that became a real problem at our table. At first you say, well, it depends on the situation with the body. And I agree. Is the body stripped down of all its flesh and tendons and just a skeleton, or is it still got a lot of meat on the bone, as it were? That's going to answer, to my mind, which one is which. Skeletons have only 1 hit dice, but they have the advantage of being able to attack any time in a round. Zombies have 2 hit dice, but can only attack last in a round. So there's a trade-off between the two. I kind of let the situation declare which one it's going to be. For instance, it goes down 10 feet. So I had a player one time say, well, okay, the grave's not 10 feet down. I'm going to animate, whatever's down within 10-foot area in this area. And I said, that's fine. They can't get out. They have to be able to thrash their way through whatever medium that they're buried in. So can they get out of the coffin or crypt they're buried in? Can they get their way through the tightly packed earth between their coffin, usually 6 feet in European society, which is what D&D is based on, or are they able to get out there? Or if you do animate them, will it be 2 months before they get free? Those are all valid questions. So generally at my table, this spell was used for recently slain foes. If you had that group of bandits attack you, and you drop 10 bandits die in the encounter, and your cleric at 5th level decides he's going to animate some of them, then 5th level, he can animate 5 of them and they come up. And in my mind, they would be zombies because the bodies are still cased in their flesh. So as the creatures rise up, they would rise up as zombies, at least at my table. That would be my ruling. If, however, you come across some kind of area where maybe there's been a big battle, but nobody actually cleaned up the battles, there's a bunch of skeletons that have been stripped by nature, you could then summon up to the maximum number of skeletons you're able to get, and then they'll follow you and obey very simple commands. Commands are another thing at my table. They can't say attack all good creatures. The spell does not give the monsters any kind of mind. They can't make any kind of judgment call as to whether a creature is good or evil. Therefore, I don't allow that kind of judgment to be made. Attack the first human you see, yes, I'll allow that. Attack any orcs you see, yes, I'll allow that. Stay here and guard this chamber. Bang this pot with the butt of your sword, the hilt of your sword, when anything approaches the tent. Well, anything like that, I'd allow them to do, set up an alarm. It's very subjective for the players. Now, my players haven't used this spell in a very, very long time. And that's kind of a shame because it can be a lot of fun, but it is a lot of extra work for the DM. You've got to keep track of the zombies themselves, or the skeletons. Now, the one answer is, well, the heck with it, I'm going to make the player do that. And I completely agree with that to a point, but you have to be the DM. You have to make sure the player's doing it correctly and being fair to everybody at the table. So it can get a little tricky in that regard. One other thing I do want to talk about is that the Animate Dead spell is a magic user spell available at 5th level. I've never seen anybody take a 5th level Animate Dead, and that would be available for a magic user at 9th level. And that means they would animate automatically 9 of the skeletons or zombies. Can be pretty potent. I don't see players use this a bunch because skeleton zombies, let's face it, are pretty fragile, especially if you're a 9th level magic user. They're good to impede something that's tracking you or otherwise going to bother you, or as guardians and alarms. Once they start attacking it, you'll hear the battle, so you can react to that. I can see that, but I also could see using other things for a 5th level spell. The big bad evil guys, they seem to love this. How many layers do you have that are guarded by skeletons and zombies, especially at low levels? I have them all the time. It's a very frequent thing at my table. Big bad evil guys seem to really love this spell. And keep in mind, too, it does say you can only call up 1 per level per spell. That's per spell. At my table, you could take 3 of these in a day and animate. At 5th level, you could animate 15 skeletons and zombies if you had enough corpses available to do so. So it could be 15, and because the spell is permanent, you could do this day after day after day. That's how the bad guys, at my table anyway, that's how I always envision them stocking up on their undead creatures to thwart the player characters. So just some interesting thoughts on this. Of course, they can be turned by a cleric or a paladin, and turning skeletons and zombies at even 5th or 6th level is pretty basic. Paladins turn at 2 levels lower, but they could still do it. You're going to be destroying these things pretty easily. Now, one advantage skeletons do have over zombies, they take half damage from edged weapons. So functionally, if you have a skeleton standing next to a zombie and both are being attacked by an edged weapon, for instance, a longsword, they are functionally the same amount of hit points because you're doing half damage to one or doing full damage to another that has twice the hit points. So functionally, it becomes the same. I realize that there are some differences. The individual creature has less hit points, etc., but that's functionally what's going on. So just an interesting spell. It's kind of a gateway spell for your player characters to animate dead, maybe do a, quote, evil act, unquote. I, however, don't have a problem with good clerics animating this unless there's something specific to their deity that doesn't let them animate undead, create undead. Maybe their deity is, one of their missions in life is to destroy all undead. Well, if you're a cleric of that deity, you better not be using it in the Animate Dead spell. You're going to have a problem with the boss. I like this spell. I like it a lot. I don't consider it evil. I consider the animated creatures to be simply another tool to use, much like the silliness of clerics only using blunt weapons. I allow a cleric to use edged weapon if their deity uses edged weapons. That's been something that was in Dragon as early as like 1982 or 1983 that we did adopt, and it all depends on the deity itself. A lot of times there's an advantage to using a blunt weapon. Like against skeletons, you get full damage. But that's all I've got today on Animate Dead. Let me know what you think. Am I completely wrong? Maybe it is an evil act. There's no way you would allow this at your table, and I get that. I totally do. Or maybe it's you've modified it a little bit and you get 2 per level, therefore making it worth your while. Maybe somehow you decide they don't need an available fresh body or skeleton in order to animate it. How do you do it if the skeleton is, scattered around the area? I have the skeleton gather itself together and animate, but that's me. Of course, skeletons are most famous, at least at my table, for the excellent fight in the seven Golden Voyage of Sinbad. No, Jason and the Argonauts. The outstanding skeleton fight, the 7 skeletons versus Jason and his guys at the end of the film. That's what I thought of right away the first time I encountered skeletons in D&D, and I think a lot of people have, at least people my age. But there you have it. Let me know what you think. Leave some comments below. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel. I'm still trying to grow it. Also, if there are any topics that you're interested in me covering, please let me know. I enjoy doing D&D stuff. I really do. These are some of the more fun videos that I have to make. I love making all my videos, but D&D ones are near and dear because this is the game I started with and probably the game I actually know the best. So let me know what you think. Please leave comments below, like and subscribe as I said, and I'll see you next time on page 121.